What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video. Today we got the updated version of the Bracketology Power 35 rankings for week 5. We do these every single Monday along with a bunch of other college basketball content, so make sure you guys subscribe. And yeah guys, we got a lot of changes once again. It's been a chaotic, crazy college basketball season already this year, which is the exact type of season that we all love. So it's going to be a good one. Make sure you guys subscribe. Let's get into these rankings. Alright guys, so as always, I am dropping the rankings all at once for you guys to look at, and this week we added a few teams. Instead of doing the normal Bracketology Power 35, we have the Power 40 because there were so many teams this week that I thought deserved to be ranked in my poll that I had to add up to 40 teams. And there are a few other honorable mentions we still have. I just couldn't fit them on the graphic. So if you stay till the end, I will tell you my next 5 honorable mentions. So really, I'll give you guys kind of a top 45. But number 1, still staying at number 1, is the Auburn Tigers. I know that they did lose to Duke on the road. It's a very tough place to play. I thought that they still played pretty well given the environment and all that, and that is their first loss on the season. I still think Auburn is the best team in the country, so I have them staying at number 1. There is an argument, though, for my number 2 to be number 1, and that is the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee is undefeated up to this point in the season, looking really good. They have solid wins, but I don't think that they would be undefeated if they had to play the schedule that Auburn did. Auburn has played a much harder schedule. They just now picked up their first loss in a close one on the road at Duke. So I don't think that's such a horrible loss for Auburn to drop. I'm keeping them at number 1, but at number 2, I do have jumping up one spot from number 3, Tennessee. They're still undefeated, looking like one of the best teams in the country. We'll see if they can keep it up. Right now, I got them number 2. Number 3, jumping up 3 spots from number 6 to number 3, we do have Iowa State. Iowa State got a good win against Marquette this week at home. Hilton Coliseum, that's one of the tougher places to play in college basketball, and they've looked really good so far this year. Their only loss is a very close game on a neutral site in the Maui Invitational to Auburn, who is my number 1 team. That was a very, very close game. I think they're 2 of the best teams in the country, and I think Iowa State here is number 3 this week. Number 4, we do have the team that they did beat at home this week in Marquette. Marquette, yes, they did lose a game this week on the road at Iowa State, one of the tougher places to play in college basketball against one of the better teams in college basketball. But Marquette really impressed me because they kept that game close. They never let Iowa State pull away. Cam Jones is a tremendous playmaker, much improved off last year. He has really taken into that Tyler Kolek type role, but also he's a better scorer and a much better shooter than Tyler Kolek. So I think Marquette is an elite team this year, and not only did they barely lose on the road to one of the best teams in the country, but they also played a second game this week where they beat Wisconsin. So that was another really good win for Marquette as well. So I have them staying put at number 4 this week, right where they were last week. Same with number 5, another team that went 1-1 with a really good win, who is staying in the same place as last week, and that is Kentucky at number 5. Kentucky, they did lose on the road at Clemson. That is a tough place to play. I mean, these true road games are very tough to play, and you're bound to drop 1 or 2. You know, across the whole course of the season, you're going to drop probably more than that. So Kentucky finally dropped 1 there on the road to Clemson, but then they pick up not a true road game, but basically a road game against Gonzaga where they won. It was in Seattle, so it wasn't on campus for Gonzaga, but I mean, it was pretty close to being a home game for the Zags, and Kentucky was able to win that game. They were down almost 20 points in that game, was able to come back, face some adversity with some injuries to Lamont Butler, but they found a way to get it done. I don't think that they deserve to move down for that Clemson loss, especially with the win over Gonzaga. They are staying put here at number 5. Number 6, we do have the Florida Gators jumping up 7 spots, still undefeated. And yeah, Florida's looking really good. Walter Clayton Jr. Is one of the more underappreciated stars in college basketball. He is very fun to watch, and Florida has been blowing out teams. Like these decent teams that they've been playing, like Virginia this past game, blew them out, especially in the second half, just ran away with it. Florida looking really good. They deserve to be up here at number 6, so they enter the top 10 this week. Number 7, we do have Duke jumping up 8 spots. They got the biggest win of the week against Auburn. Yes, it was a true home game for Duke, but that's still a very impressive win. And yeah, they're looking a lot better, getting better every single week with this young roster. They're back into the top 10 at number 7. Number 8, we do have Alabama. They won a road game against North Carolina, beat them pretty bad, just really overmatched them. And there's no doubt in my mind Alabama is the top 10 team, so they're back in there, jumping up 6 spots to number 8. Number 9, we do have Oklahoma, and again, they're undefeated. They haven't played that good of a schedule yet, but they do have some key wins here and there. And their best one is probably against Louisville. But Oklahoma's undefeated. There are only 3 Power 5 undefeated teams left, and they are all in the SEC, and that is Oklahoma, Florida, and Tennessee. Oklahoma jumping up 3 spots, entering the top 10 here at number 9. Number 10, we do have Oregon. I only have them falling 2 spots. They took their first loss of the season this week to basically a buzzer beater to UCLA. And, you know, they definitely did enough to win that game. Dylan Andrews banked in a 3 to win with like a second left against Oregon, and that is how they lost. So they do drop 2 spots here, but I still believe Oregon deserves to be in the top 10. They've played some really good opponents this year, and they beat them. That was only their first loss, so Oregon stays here at number 10. Number 11, we do have Gonzaga. They had to drop a little bit for that loss against Kentucky, but I look at Kentucky pretty highly this year, so I'm not going to fault Gonzaga too much, but they do drop out of the top 10 here at number 11. I thought Gonzaga was going to be one of my top national championship contenders this year, and they still could be, but that is their second loss on the season. Lost earlier to West Virginia in the year. Now they lost to Kentucky. That was a game that they had. They were up 17, almost 20 points on Kentucky, and they let them crawl back into it and force overtime, and it got away from them. That is their second loss of the season. Both of them came in overtime. And, yeah, I'm not going to drop them too much because I still believe Gonzaga is one of the top-tier teams in the country. They had dropped 2 spots out of the top 10 to number 11. Number 12, we do have Kansas. And Kansas had one of the roughest weeks in college basketball. I wanted to drop them more, but these were their first 2 losses. And they were both on the road, both true road games against Creighton and against Missouri. And they got beat up pretty bad this week. 2 court storms for the Jayhawks. I wanted to drop them more, but honestly, there were a lot more teams that also lost this week that I just could not see putting above Kansas at this point in the season. So I had to keep them somewhat high here at number 12, but they do drop 10 spots from number 2 to number 12 with these 2 losses. But Kansas will have to bounce back because if they do take another loss next week, they will fall out of the top 20 and probably out of the top 25 for me. Number 13, we do have Texas A&M. And they had one of the better weeks in college basketball. They, at full force, are pretty scary. And they got a very impressive win over Texas Tech. I thought that was a gritty win. And, yeah, really impressed me. They're up all the way back into the top 15. They've only had 1 loss on the season. It came first game of the year to Central Florida. But they have been red hot ever since. And, yeah, that big win streaks like that can really push you up my rankings. My rankings have always been that way. And power rankings, you know, if you're on a big win streak, you're going to jump up a lot more than a team that is win-loss, win-loss. Purdue here at number 14. They're actually dropping 4 spots. They did beat Maryland this week, but earlier in the week they got blown out on the road to Penn State. And Penn State, I think, is a decent team. They have a really good defense, and as long as that atmosphere stays like that, which it should after that win against Purdue, they're going to be tough, especially if they're pressing, putting some pressure on teams, forcing turnovers. With that atmosphere, it's going to be very tough to beat Penn State on the road, and Purdue witnessed that firsthand. Yes, they did come back home to Mackey and beat Maryland, but Maryland played a very good game and really almost beat Purdue. There were a ton of lead changes in that game. Maryland was hanging in there. And yeah, Purdue, they had to drop a little bit. They're down here at number 14 now, dropping 4 spots. Number 15, I got the Drake Bulldogs. They're undefeated. They're my top-ranked mid-major. at the moment, unless you consider Gonzaga a mid-major. I personally don't. Drake, undefeated. They have some good wins. Their best one against Vanderbilt. And they're jumping up 4 spots since they are still undefeated up to number 15. Number 16, we do have Michigan State jumping up 9 spots. 2 good wins in the Big Ten Conference this week. One against Minnesota, and I believe the other one was against Nebraska. So 2 pretty solid wins for Michigan State. They beat them both pretty handily, only And yeah, Michigan State up 9 spots all the way back into the top 20 at number 16. Number 17, I got Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt only loss on the season is to Drake, as I mentioned earlier, and they picked up 2 more solid wins this week against Virginia Tech and against TCU. So pretty impressive wins, honestly, for Vanderbilt. I'm pretty sure the TCU one was on the road as well. Vanderbilt looking pretty solid. They definitely deserve to be in the top 20 at this point. I believe they're up 12 spots. Number 18, we have Arizona State. I feel like Arizona State's been one of the more underrated teams in the country this year, and I think it's because most die-hard college basketball fans saw them get their wheels blown off in the preseason in a scrimmage against Duke, and we didn't really give them much of a chance after that. But in the regular season, they have looked really good. Their only loss is a close one on the road to Gonzaga. I think they lost by 5 or 6 points. And ever since then, they've been picking up solid wins. And yeah, they're up 3 more spots here, entering the top 20 at number 18. Number 19, we have Georgia. They're jumping up 1 spot. They didn't do anything that special this week, but they are still a very solid team. And they have a good win against St. John's. Only 1 loss on the season, so definitely a sleeper in the SEC. Are they going to be able to maintain the top 20 as we get into SEC play and stuff like that? I don't know if they'll be able to maintain top 20, but they could definitely possibly maintain staying on these rankings and being a NCAA tournament team. Number 20, I do have Maryland jumping up 20 spots. Yes, they did lose to Purdue, and they were on my teams to watch last week as an honorable mention. They're entering the rankings this week all the way at number 20, and not only because how much they impressed me on the road at Purdue, but earlier in the week they destroyed Ohio State. I'm pretty sure the score was 55-19 at halftime. They blew Ohio State out the water, and Maryland has been super impressive. Derek Queen is one of the best freshmen, one of the best players in the country. I'm not sure if there's many big men that are going to be better than Derek Queen this season. He is that good, and he was stepping out shooting some 3 balls against Purdue as well. That is very scary, but they also have Jacoby Gillespie, who has been shooting the ball really good. Rodney Rice has started to put the ball in the basket from 3-point range. They got Julian Reese down low with Derek Queen. Those are 2 solid bigs, man. Maryland's really impressed me, so they're jumping up all the way number 20. Number 21, we got Clemson. They weren't ranked for me last week. Their only loss is to Boise State, but they actually have a really good win that they picked up this week against Kentucky. And they also have another really solid win, which is starting to look better against Penn State earlier in the year. So, Clemson's really impressed me. They weren't ranked last week, but they're all the way up to number 21 this week. Number 22, we got San Diego State. They're up 2 spots. Didn't do anything too special. They blew out their crosstown rival, if you really want to consider it a rival, in San Diego. But yeah, San Diego State still looking pretty good here at number 22, jumping up 2 spots. Number 23, we got Michigan jumping up 15 spots. They were one of my top teams to watch, honorable mentions, whatever you want to call it, last week. And they picked up 2 solid wins this week. One against Wisconsin, which was very impressive. And they've been running Danny Wolf, the transfer from Yale, at the point guard position. This is a 6'11", 7-foot dude. And then they got him bringing the ball down the court, running pick and rolls with Vlad Golden. This it's very fun to watch, and Michigan is finding ways to get creative and win these ball games. And they got to be in the top 25 this week. They're here at number 23, jumping up 15 spots. Number 24, we do have Ole Miss. They didn't lose this week, but they had to drop a spot because I had to put teams like Michigan, Clemson, who got these really impressive wins and just been having some really impressive play above Ole Miss at this point, because Ole Miss is yet to get a really, signature win this year. And I still believe they are a really good team. They almost got it against Purdue. They do have a win on the road against Louisville. But Ole Miss here at number 24. Number 25, we got Mississippi State. Not ranked for me last week. They fell out after they did lose to Butler, which Butler actually isn't looking too bad anymore. But they blew out Pitt hard. I mean, beat them by 35 points, which was surprising to me. I thought it would be a much closer game. But yeah, Mississippi State looking really good. Josh Hubbard, you guys know, is one of my favorite players in college basketball. And yeah, they're looking really good here at number 25. St. John's staying here at number 26. Haven't done anything too special lately, but they're hanging around. I do think that they are around this range as far as how good of a team they are. And if there's going to be anybody in the Big East to compete with Marquette, it might be St. John's. We'll talk about UConn here in a little bit. They could possibly give them a run for their money. But really, I think it's between those three teams in the Big East. Wisconsin at 27, dropping 20 spots. One of my biggest fallers this week. Two tough losses this week. They're going to have to bounce back. But they've had a really good, overall season so far. So they just need to bounce back, and they can jump back up pretty quickly into the top 20. Right behind them, a team that they beat earlier this year, we have the Pitt Panthers. They are dropping 17 spots this week. They did get a win this week against Virginia Tech on the road, which was a good win. Although Virginia Tech's probably one of the worser teams in the Power 5 this year. But the loss on the road to Mississippi State, getting blown out that way, is really what dropped Pitt down this low, 17 spots. But they're still in the rankings here at number 28. Number 29, we do have Illinois, and Illinois dropping 7 spots this week. They did lose to Northwestern. That was a really close game, rival game on the road. Didn't want to drop them too far because they did compete in that game. They were actually in the lead in that game for most of it, and those true road games are tough, especially in a rival game, conference game against Northwestern. But Illinois staying up here at number 29. Number 30, we do have Houston. Houston jumping up 2 spots, mainly just because teams have been falling, and Houston's defense is still looking really elite. I've always expected, ever since I've dropped Houston so low, after they did lose to San Diego State and lose to Alabama, both in overtime, I believe. I always thought, Houston is definitely going to jump back up at least into the top 20 eventually. They're going to have their opportunities. I believe they will get there, but for now they're sitting here at number 30. Number 31, we do have UCLA. I mentioned earlier they won on a buzzer beater against Oregon, and I kept Oregon at number 10, but UCLA wasn't ranked for me. They're up at 31 this week. Their only loss this year is to New Mexico, but that was a signature win for them. We'll see if they can keep it up. If they can get a couple of good wins this week, they could jump up quite a bit more in next week's rankings. Number 32, I got West Virginia jumping up 2 spots this week from 34 to 32 after a good home win against Georgetown. Georgetown kind of hung in there with them a little bit, but WVU was able to pull away there at the end. Javon Small has been a star for WVU this year, and Tucker DeVries hasn't been putting up the numbers I quite expected, but he hits big shots when you need him, and really he plays as a huge decoy for Javon Small or just anyone in this West Virginia offense, because Tucker DeVries, when he comes off a screen to shoot the ball, he draws so many double teams, and you got to play him high because he will pull from very deep, and that's really been his main role, and to let guys like Javon Small just cook up, and WVU up to 32 this week. Number 33, we got the Dayton Flyers, also jumping up 2 spots this week from 35 to 33. Just still looking pretty good, looking impressive, And ever since the Maui Invitational, I've had a hard time ever dropping them out of the top 35 unless they get a couple of bad losses. So right now they're here at number 33. Number 34, we got the Memphis Tigers. Took one of the more worst losses this week because they lost to a team that I believe is going to come out of the Sun Belt Conference, but the Sun Belt isn't particularly good in basketball, and that is Arkansas State. Arkansas State was able to beat Memphis this week, which caused Memphis to drop 16 spots here out of the top 20 all the way down to 34. I still think Memphis has one of the better backcourts in the country. PJ Haggerty had a really good game still against Arkansas State. Tyrese Hunter did not. And their defense did not look good in that game either. But Memphis still in the rankings after that tough loss. We'll see if they can bounce back, but they're here at number 34. Number 35, we do have UConn. And UConn at 35, they weren't ranked for me last week. I did kind of have them in my teams to watch just because I had a feeling they were going to, try to bounce back. At least they had their opportunities to bounce back. And they did it. They beat Baylor this week at home, and then they went on the road in Austin and defeated the Texas Longhorns. So both those teams were ranked in the top 30 for me last week. So that was two good top 30 wins that UConn needed, and they're back in the rankings here at number 35. Kind of makes sense to have them right below UConn, or right below Memphis, because Memphis did beat them on a neutral site in double overtime. So makes a lot of sense there that Memphis, UConn are kind of at the same spot. They're around the same spot right now. 36, we do have Penn State. I mentioned earlier they blew the wheels off of Purdue at home, and that's going to be a very tough place for anybody to play at Penn State this year. The way that they've been pressing with Ace Baldwin, he's a really good player, man, and Puff Johnson, they're some solid players. And with that defense, with that atmosphere, it's going to be tough for anybody to go in there and win. But they're up here at number 36 after that good win against Purdue. Number 37, I got Baylor dropping 20 spots. Losing to UConn on the road, not that bad of a loss, but Baylor has struggled to win big games this year. And that was, their third loss? They had to drop quite a bit, and they had to drop below UConn, so they're all the way down here at number 37. Number 38, we do have Missouri, like I mentioned earlier. We do have 5 more extended teams. There were so many teams I thought deserved to be ranked this week that I had to extend it to the Power 40. So let me know, should we keep the Power 40 permanent instead of the Power 35? Let me know if you guys like this better. There were so many good teams this year, guys. But Missouri beat Kansas at home in the border game, the border war, Missouri versus Kansas. Big win for Dennis Gates. Looked really good. The SEC is so deep this year. There is legitimately probably 12 to 13 teams that will be in the NCAA tournament this year out of the SEC, which would break the record. The record is 11 teams, which was the Big East in 2011, had 11 teams make the NCAA tournament. I think the SEC is going to break that record this year. But Missouri, huge win for them. They're in the rankings here at number 38. Number 39, we have St. Mary's. They're technically jumping up 3 spots because of where they were at on my honorable mentions last week. And jumping up 3 spots. St. Mary's, they look like a very solid team. They deserve to be ranked. Big reason why I wanted to extend these rankings. And also for this 40th team, Rhode Island. Rhode Island, the Rams, have been amazing this year. Undefeated so far this year. Picked up a big win this week against their big in-state rivalry in Providence. Beat Providence. Very impressive. Undefeated. Had to put the Rams in the power rankings this week. Had to extend it to 40 for them. But we got them in there. And technically they were on my teams to watch honorable mention last week. So technically jumping up 3 spots. But they're in the rankings here at number 40. So Let me know what you guys think about the Dannyology rankings this week. Should we extend it to 40 teams permanently, or should we bring it back to 35 next week and make it harder for me to cram all these really good teams in here? But this was a tough week, guys. There were a lot of teams that lost. We'll see if they bounce back, and I'm sure we will have another chaotic rankings for you guys next Monday, and we got a lot more college basketball content coming your way as well. So make sure you guys subscribe. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.